Welcome back to Sleep Well. We're doing more videos. We're doing a new story today called Memories of the Graveyard Shift. Andrea's back. This story is written by D.D. Howard. And we're giving him credit. D.D. Howard, Memories of a Graveyard Shift. We did our practice story, all right? So it's not going to be so rough starting this recording. This will be our 5th episode. And thank you for all the subs and likes and views in the last couple weeks. We are blowing up, so I appreciate that. As always, Andrea's going to start us off. And she got her practicing, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay. I was 18 at the time. I just graduated high school and was probably, wow. I'm sorry.
There's a compilation coming, guys. There is a compilation coming. I swear.
I was 18.
You got to practice.
I know.
Right.
I was 18 at the time. I just graduated high school, and what was probably a really exciting and memorable time for most people was a stressful race against time for me. You see, my dad was very traditional. If I were going to be living in his house after high school, even just over the summer between graduation and college, I needed a job. If not, I was freeloading. He swore with an adamance. Oh, adamant. I certainly didn't care to test that I'd be out on the street if I was unemployed for long. I'd had months of preparation, hell, years really. This entire time I could have been looking, he certainly hadn't waited until now to clue me in on the terms of living with him after high school. But I just wasn't the type to care that much about anything until I was days from a deadline.
Slow down just a little bit.
Okay.
You're reading super fast. You're reading super fast. That's probably what's tripping you up. Because you're just reading too fast. I was like that. I'm bad about that too. I read really fast too. Okay. Here, let me read this paragraph here. Finding a job back then wasn't easy. I dyed my hair green, and my nose and lips were pierced. Not to mention the gauges and the shitty stick and poke snake on my forearm that my 16-year-old self had inflicted upon me. Jesus. Case in point, I wasn't getting hired most places, and being that I had about a week at the time I left to figure out it all, and being that I had about a week at the time left to figure it all out, weird sentence, like usual, I was in a mad scramble to line something up before facing the consequences. But then, as if some morbid miracle, a cop got shot and killed on 84th Avenue, pretty close to the pass and go out there. And pass and go out there, and an opening for the night shift position appeared not long after. Let's just break that down a bit. Cop gets shot by the 84th Avenue by the pass and go, which I'm assuming is a gas station. And he's like, or whatever it is. And she's like, yeah, that's all mine.
Miracle.
It's a miracle that that cop got shot and someone got, quit. All right. Go ahead.
The pass and go and 84th Avenue as a whole had a pretty bad reputation. See, 84th was on one of the only roads in town still unpaved at parts, namely the north end shortly after the pass and go. And it wound along a pretty deep drainage ditch where no guardrails had ever been built, even after decades of complaints. There was a particular tight bend up the road where a lot of drunk drivers and speeding teens learned that they were not in fact invincible, some of them even taking that lesson to the grave with them, and the lack of streetlights just made it all the more dangerous.
Okay.
Morbid.
But those were just illogical concerns. In a tiny town like mine, people are bored enough to run with sensational bullshit, and so 84th could never just be a dangerous road with poor construction and lack of safety measures to blame, but was instead cursed and haunted. People died there so often Not because it was just a hazardous roadway, but because it was bloodthirsty evil. People's reception went out on the road, not because it was essentially the furthest you could be from the town, but because some malicious entity wanted you isolated. You get it.
So basically, the worst road, don't go to that road.
I am picturing this person. I think it's a girl. But I'm picturing like emo, like fucking the gauges, the tattoos, long hair, maybe a little bit of red in there. Really into like the dark shit. That's what I'm picturing that right now.
I can see that. Teenager, right? Yeah, just graduated
Yeah,
high
teenager
school.
just angst, teenage angst, just completely. Tonight will be the night that I will fall for
That's what I was
you
thinking of.
over again. All right, go ahead.
The woods beyond the ditch were even worse. On 3 occasions since the turn of the century, bodies were found out there, one a suicide and two in shallow graves. And in a
Mm.
town as small as mine had been, that's a pretty sizable number. For a criminal, though, it only made sense to bury them there. Again, this place was basically abandoned and totally secluded. Really, the only other people that far northwest of town were the Wages at the pass and go, and they weren't getting paid enough to be on the lookout for anything. Not to mention, they had their own weirdness to deal with. All sorts of strange and illegal activities happened in that pothole-ridden parking lot, and why wouldn't it? That place was the last beacon of humanity's presence in the town for miles until you got to the 90th Street, the main road shooting off from the highway. So anybody working there had enough going on at their own doorstep and wouldn't be paying any attention to cars pulled off on the side of the road with mysteriously heavy duffel bags in the trunk. Suffice it to say, once the position opened, I was the only person in town out of options enough to drop off an application. And wouldn't you know it, I was scheduled to start in 2 days.
I really like how the story started. I know I keep talking, and I'm sure the viewers are like, "Stop talking, motherfucker." But this story started off really good. I'm kind of like, I'm kind of in it. Not a lot's happened, but I like the world they're setting up right now.
Yeah, you can picture this road and the
Yeah,
body bags, the shallow
I
graves.
yeah, I'm picturing like a small town. That's why I'm going southern as fuck with these accents. Small town, graveyard, fucking a dimly light gas station. Oh yeah, I'm feeling it. I picked it up quick. Job was easy, and though at first I was shadowing a guy that, by all accounts, could have been undead, I was left to my own devices a week later. To be honest, I actually kind of liked the job at first. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. were pretty standard hours of consciousness for me. Anyway, working the graveyard shift finally gave me an excuse to sleep in until the 3. It was dead most nights, sometimes, and I'm not exaggerating. I literally don't see a single customer. And other nights, the goofiness of my interactions with various druggies kept things interesting. But those kinds of nights aren't what this story is about. Okay.
The first time I remember being pretty confused was only 2 weeks after I'd started the job. I was pretty stoned at the time, so I tensed up when I saw a cop walking toward the door, but I wasn't complacent enough to blaze it before work without eye drops for fear of those exact situations. Not so much worried about getting arrested, but about what my dad would do to me. I also had a little bit of a heads up in the town of a faulty open sign in the window. The neon would pretty often flicker or dim for some reason when people were coming up to the door. Really couldn't tell you why it happened, but when I was totally fucking off behind the counter, it was my cue to act natural for a minute. And since a bunch of random bullshit was stacked up on the side of the counter to my left, facing the parking lot and the pumps, I couldn't ever see out the windows unless I was actively looking over it. So needless to say, whatever was wrong with that sign certainly wasn't something I was going to try and get fixed.
Go ahead, read this.
When the cop walked in, I sort of leaned back as casually as possible and tried to make small talk with him so his mind wouldn't wander anywhere else.
See any crazies? Not yet, he answered, pursuing the energy drinks like a selection of fine wines. Sounded pretty bored, and I hope that wasn't an addiction that he was looking for something to do. Ooh, well, lucky you. Can say the same myself. Yeah? Read this.
He settled on a sugar-free monster. He walked over to the counter, and I remember thinking he was either a new guy or one of those officers that just never stopped being motivated, going off his short hair and fresh fade. Although judging off how young he looked, definitely early 20s, I was going with the former. There were the worst, th These were the worst types of cops from my experience, always looking for a way to stand out to their higher ups.
Yeah. Saw a lady sleeping in a shopping cart out back. Asked her why the shopping cart, and she learned from a TV show that we should never sleep on the bare ground. Learn something new every day.
That
That actually happened last week, but who's counting? Psst, weirdos, man. Yeah, well, that be all. Yep. 329.
He tapped his card on the reader, and while the sale processed, I remember actually feeling slightly concerned for the guy. I wasn't a big fan of cops, but one of them died around here recently after all, and just talking with this guy face to face kind of humanized him for me. As he cupped the top of the drink and slid off the counter, I said,
Stay safe out there.
he glanced at me and raised an eyebrow.
You know something I don't? Nah, just, the cop that got shot out here a couple weeks ago? Huh?
I just stared at him.
Listen. Carter, you can't believe everything you hear about this place. 84th Avenue, it's just a street, man. Most of what you hear about this place is embellished or even totally made up. Yeah, alright. Well, have a good night, officer. Paul squinting at his name tag. Brady. I think it's a male.
I think it's a guy.
Now that I'm reading it.
He walked off into the night, his energy drink in his hand. At the time, I didn't give that interaction a whole lot of thought. I learned most of my news from memes, and it was definitely possible I'd been wrong. Unlikely, but possible. That sounds like me. I learned most of my news from TikTok.
Yeah, same. I'm like, oh, California's on fire right now? And it's like a meme. I was like, damn, that's crazy. But over time, stranger things began to occur. And I'm not talking about druggies sleeping in shopping carts. I began to pick up on an anomaly with the neon sign. See, it actually didn't flicker very often. It seemed to at first, but after getting caught off guard multiple times by random people coming in, I realized I couldn't trust it as much as I thought I could. Yet, strangely, though it seemed inconsistent, I realized it was also blinked and dimmed for certain people. There was this lady that would come in about once a week and buy a scratch-off ticket. I figured she had to be pretty depressed, cause she was always wearing the same clothes, and was coming to this dingy-ass place with relative frequency every time she'd ask for the same ticket. Cash keiser, and every time I'd slide it to her, she'd smile at me and say, maybe tonight's the night. Even in her voice, I could hear how much she needed a break. But I guess tonight was never the night, cause a week or two later, she'd always be back. Always dressed the same, always buying a colorful strip of false hope that things would suddenly change for her. I tried to chat with her the more she came in, but she wasn't keen on giving away details about her life. She was mostly unresponsive, just nodding and giving me one-word answers, and then she'd head out in a kind of a hurry. But her clothes weren't only the thing that stayed the same every time. Every single time she came into the pass and go, that sign would flicker.
Now, I could have just been reading into things too much. I wondered if the sign was ultimately connected to a wire through the ground, maybe. And maybe certain people were stepping over it. And those people just kind of came in the same way every time. I didn't really know. I'm not an electrician. But the sort of Groundhog Day that transpired every time she stopped by really did intrigue me. Then then one night in early July, I had another curious experience. I was listening to some podcasts about ayahuasca and
Yeah.
contemplating if I'd ever take the plunge when the green flicker off my inconsistent early warning system caught my attention, and when my eyes trailed from the neon sign and over the merchandise on the counter to the pumps out in the dark beyond, I saw a guy pumping gas into his truck, probably in his mid-30s. He had this really gruff look on his face, but I wouldn't have paid it much mind except for the fact someone was with him, a girl about my age.
While he was by the pump, While he was by the pump, she was heading onto the store. She had black hair down to her shoulders, and these big brown eyes. Her skin was kind of pale, like she probably didn't get out much, and she wore skinny jeans and a gray top. As soon as I noticed her approaching, I stepped back from the window. I definitely didn't want to creep her out by being seen peeking over the counter through the glass. She came in, and as the chime above the door rang, I couldn't help but glance at her as she leaned to the snacks. But glanced at her as she beelined to the snacks. She was cute, and I was considering flirting with her at first, but then I glanced over the counter again at the guy in the parking lot, presuming him to be her big brother or dad or something. I didn't want to piss him off, so I just decided to keep it casual.
She was by the coolers on the back wall the next time I found her, not looking my direction while she scanned our selection of sports drinks. Then she grabbed a red Gatorade and came walking up to the front. She put the drink and a bag of classic Lay's on the counter, and when I noticed it was almost 4 in the morning, I couldn't help but inquire. What?
What's
That was
got
weird.
you out so late?
I was scanning the items with muscle memory, my eyes meeting hers after she glanced at the counter for a second as if considering a response.
Nothing really, big bro.
I flicked my eyes to the guy in the parking lot, and at this, her nose wrinkled.
Ew, no.
I thought that was a strange response.
Ew?
I asked as a total popped up on the screen.
It's gross to have a brother? It's gross to kiss your brother.
She smiled flatly, and I didn't want to seem creepy, but I couldn't help but get on the tip of my toes for a second and peek at him again. No doubt the guy was in his 30s, as if I had to be more specific. I'd be leaning more towards late 30s than early. He was wearing boots, jeans, and a blue and brown flannel, and had a 5 o'clock shadow I could see from the store. The more I looked at him, the more weirded out I felt. But then again, none of this was my business, and I didn't want to pry. She definitely didn't seem to be with him against her will.
Ah, gotcha.
I smiled, but the whole thing felt unignorably off to me as she handed me a 10.
You guys, going on the road trip or something? Something like that.
There was this turbulent mix of emotions in her eyes, and while she looked excited, definitely thrilled about something, she also kind of seemed to be longing too. I only got a glimpse of it though, as she unexpectedly asked,
Do you ever just do something totally crazy like overnight? I mean, I took a heroic dose of shrooms once without a trip sitter.
I smirked and she chuckled too, but shook her head.
I didn't mean something like that. Anyway, have a good rest of your night. You too.
I remarked as she turned and walked away. I felt a steadily increasing urge to say something, to ask her why she was with a guy that looked like he could be her dad, to inquire more about this crazy overnight thing she was hinting at, or this road trip esque adventure she was on that had her at this infamous gas station at 4 in the morning.
But I was just too immature at the time and selfish. Even feeling like I should probably investigate what was happening, probably pay more attention to what was going on, I also felt like I really couldn't be bothered. Told myself that I told myself it wasn't my business. That I shouldn't be nosy, but really, I just didn't want to go. But really, I just didn't want to be involved. Though, a moment after she left the store, my curiosity got the better of me again, and I peered over the cigarettes at the truck in the parking lot. She was already inside, and at first it looked pretty unassuming. It was an old and kind of faded red, with 2x4s in the back under a blue tarp. All in all, nothing suspicious, but when he got to the turnoff onto 84th and he took a right, I noticed the passenger side window was broken, like it's been punched out. Couldn't see the girl while this far away, but her being in this other guy's truck with the right window shattered made me feel even stranger about the whole ordeal. Something was definitely off. But at the time, my lazy ass just didn't care enough. Damn.
It was mid-July though. It sounds okay. I'm
So
just gonna
wait,
pause for a
pause here because
second.
that's what is it called? There's a term for that. Like when you know someone's in trouble and you're just like ignoring it. What's the term?
Foreshadowing?
No. It's definitely a foreshadow in the story. I'm saying like, say you're walking. People like do this all the time, like in New York, where like someone's being assaulted in a back alley, and they don't do anything about it. They just kind of like walk by and like ignore it. Uh,
Bystanders?
bystander something. It's like a bystander. It's a term that's like has bystander in it, but it's just like being like, oh, I'm not gonna get involved.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it. Something, okay. I just thought of, I can't remember what show it's from. It's like nothing good ever happens after 2 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
Nothing good ever happens after 4 o'clock in an abandoned, sketchy ass gas station in the middle of nowhere.
So it's yeah. Nothing ever happens good after three a.m. is the term.
Oh, that's the
Um,
one.
yeah, bystander effect. So it's the bystander effect where like something is happening to somebody, and you're like, well, I can't be fucked to do anything about this. I'm not gonna get involved. That's what it's called.
I'm scared for her.
Oh yeah, 100. I mean, like he foreshadowed that like he probably should have paid attention at the time. So like something's definitely gonna happen.
Yeah. It was mid-July, though, when the veneer of eccentric late-night patrons was shattered forever, and I was forced to see what was really going on. It began with a loud rumbling from the parking lot. I got immediately uncomfortable on some biker douche as some biker douche rolled up,
Okay.
revving his engine like it were loud enough I'd give him a discount. When he climbed off the bike and came stumbling toward the door, the green neon flickering onto him from the window, I could just tell I could tell just from the counter that he was totally hammered. He could barely even make it inside. He came right to the counter and absolutely reeked of alcohol.
Give me a pack of Menthol's Camel.
He slurred, leaning onto his counter with his right hand.
You okay, man? Fuck you mean?
He his hostility freaked me out as much as it annoyed me.
You're obviously drunk off your ass. You just drove here on a motorcycle. Seems like a bad idea. Shut the fuck up and sell me the cigarettes, man.
He was glaring at me like he was ready to swing, and though he was so fucked up, I didn't doubt I could have taken him. He was still a big, I don't doubt I could have taken him. He was still a big guy, and it really wasn't worth the trouble.
Your funeral.
I muttered, grabbing the cigarettes and noting it was the last pack. Normally, I would have made some quip about that, but with this guy, I just wanted him to leave. When I slid him the cigarettes, he flung his cash at me and almost walked away without his change. When he stumbled off back out the door, shoving it open so hard I wondered if he broke it.
And then, without any warning, as he stumbled along the window toward his bike, his entire body changed. My breathing stifled as I noticed his head was dented in. Most of his teeth were missing, and blood ran down his face and soaked his jacket. He was covered with head to toe in cuts and scrapes, and his right arm was broken, the bones jutting out slightly. I stumbled back and tripped, knocking over the vape pens, then almost slipped on them as I scrambled to my feet and chased him out the door, staring in horrified bewilderment as he climbed into a waterlogged motorcycle. The front of it totally wrecked. That is
Did a
fucking awesome.
did a ghost just buy Camel Menthols?
That is fucking awesome. That is awesome. All right, let's pick it up. Hey, man, are you all right? He just
He
looked
just
at
looked.
me.
Sorry.
As he stared into my eyes, his look was totally different than before. He wasn't angry or confrontational or even drunk. He just had his totally sober look of regret.
He stared at me a moment longer and he revved his engine, and somehow he and his obliterated bike sped off into the night, leaving me totally alone in the flickering neon. And then, as soon as he disappeared up the road, the sign stopped blinking, steadily shining like usual. I sprinted over to the doors, yanking them open and almost collapsing as I barreled into the back room and landed in the seat at the computer. I pulled up the security camera footage and rewound it a couple of minutes, desperate to see if somehow, some inconceivable way, I'd just been seeing things. But though I was willing to believe he wasn't actually injured and it was somehow all in my head, I wasn't at all prepared for the sight of me just talking to the empty air.
That's crazy. That's right! The guy never came in at all. Or you watched my harsh reaction to the absent revving of his engine, my eyes following nothing, walking along the window to the door that never opened. Then I realized that I'd never actually grabbed the pack of menthols. My hand stopped over it and handed nothing to no one. It was the same thing for the cash register, and then at last I watched myself stumble back and fall, flinging shit everywhere. In a panic, I ran out the door screaming into the night, but only I was there. It filled me with a terror so paralyzing I almost just left right then and there. I fucking would've. I sat there at the desk for a moment, shaking. Was I hallucinating? I'd heard you can get permanent schizophrenia like psychosis from... Oh my goodness. Psilocybin. That's a really hard word. I don't know. How do you say that?
Psilocybin. Oh my! It's the shroom hallucinating thing.
Okay. I heard you could get...
Psilocybin or something.
Okay, I heard you can get permanent schizophrenia like psychosis from shrooms, but this was the first and only time I'd ever hallucinated when not on the shit. And as I just stared at the monitor, unblinkingly shaking in place, I really couldn't tell what was more horrific. If I hadn't really seen that, or if I had. But then my eyes gravitated to the one part of my memory that was corroborated by the cameras. The neon. That's crazy. I would have left. I would have left the store. I would never have come back. I would have just gotten fired. Nope. I'm like, yeah, okay.
I
I'm good
wouldn't
to
even
go.
be worried about my dad cussing me out because he just saw a ghost ask for Camel Menthols.
Yeah.
It was dim, and as I unpaused the video, I watched it continue to flicker all the way until my eyes turned to the ends of 84th that I could see. And as soon as they did, it shined like normal again. I rewound the footage again, and sure enough, as soon as I began to react to the phantom motorcycle, the sign started flickering. It flickered the whole time, throughout the whole interaction, until the blinker was gone.
Biker. Till the biker was gone.
You think the girl was also dead? Oh, sorry. What did I say?
You said...
Oh, until the biker was gone.
Maybe she was dead. Maybe she was murdered by that guy in the truck. And she came into the store. Ooh, I'm getting chills. Because maybe that trucker, that guy in the truck, was her murderer.
Yeah.
And like he never
Oh.
came in, he just got gas. Ooh. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So I wasn't crazy. Something suggested there was more going on than me just losing my shit. But then, what the hell had just happened? I didn't even go back to the front as I began racking my mind for all the other times the sign had flickered. And instantly, I recalled the scratch off lady. I quickly googled 84th Avenue deaths, thinking that maybe I could identify some of these people, but the first thing that came up was the police officer shooting. Then my jaw dropped. I was stared into the memorized eyes of Officer Brady. Woo! Oh shit, okay. I could barely sit still as his eyes looked back at me from the computer screen. The same officer I had spoken to just a month ago, who didn't know about any officer shooting in the area, because he was the officer that would be shot. Dang! I
I didn't
kept
even think
looking, and
about
before long,
I,
what? It's crazy. That's crazy.
I
It's all
okay.
coming together now. I kept
Yeah.
looking, and before long, I found the scratch-off lady. She was some lonely, divorced woman that committed suicide in the woods a couple miles north of here in 2011. Oh, that's sad. And the biker had crashed into the ditch right off the bend 3 years ago. One of many drunk drivers that didn't react to the turn in time and went face first into the canal. I screamed as the chime above the door sounded, and I heard someone spin around at the front of the store. Startled by my reaction, I scrambled to my feet and walked up front, freezing as my eyes met those of Officer Brady's glinting in a flickering neon. You good?
He seemed to be both concerned and frustrated. I just stared at him, totally unable to speak.
Uh, yeah? You want something? No?
He looked at me a little longer, but then he walked his immortalized path through the gas station, his gaze drifting over the cooler of energy drinks. I couldn't help but stare right at him, utterly wordless as he moved in almost the exact same way as he had back in June, at last grabbing that same sugar-free monster. Then he walked to the counter and my hands were shaking as I took the drink from him.
Hey, you alright?
I stared into the eyes of the dead man.
Personal stuff. Something going on? Looked like you were looking at the security cameras footage when I came in. If someone's prowling around here, I could investigate.
I wanted to address what was really happening, to pick his mind and see if he was really unaware that he was dead or if he was just haunting this place. And all of this was an act. Then I began to wonder if maybe this was some kind of time machine, if I could warn him about what was bound to happen to him and prevent him from dying in the first place. But as I recall the biker's corpse mounting his waterlogged Harley, I came to the conclusion that nothing I said to this visage
Visage? Yeah.
of the officer was going to save his life. And I further waged as soon as he walked out the door, he'd be a corpse too.
You there? Talk to me, kid. You look like you've seen a ghost.
I almost laughed.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine.
I slid him his drink.
You gonna tell me the total? It's free tonight on me. Have a good one, Officer Brady. He blinked. He stood there for a moment as he considered investigating the gas station regardless of my cooperation, trying to get to the bottom of my unusual behavior. And maybe in life he would have, but his fateful march to the street where his life would be taken from him seemed programmed to resume as he suddenly turned and walked out the door, just like he had this last time back in June, taking his energy drink with him. I followed him outside, standing beneath the fluctuating sign as my eyes fell into the exit wounds in the back of his head, the red streaks oozing from the holes in his uniform. I felt like I could cry at the sight of it.
I walked back inside and had made up and had okay, sorry.
Whoa.
I walked back inside and had made my mind up to quit then and there. Yeah. I wrote up a note and left it in the manager's office. Then I locked the place up and left the key under the propane cylinder exchange out front, about to text my morning relief where the keys was when I froze. I remembered the girl with black hair and big brown eyes. The the neon sign that I had once thought of as my early warning customer alert and now understood to be some kind of paranormal detector radar had flickered with her entrance too, just like it had for the biker and the scratch-off lady and Officer Brady.
In that moment, I became brutally consumed with this desire to know what had happened to her. Maybe it was I found her cute, or maybe it was because even in the moment that night, something felt horribly off. But for some reason or another, I became totally invested in figuring out what had happened to her, to the point that I decided to unlock the store and stick around. I went back to the computer, but for some reason, though, I was able to find information about other people that had died in the area. Some of whom I'd even seen walk into the gas station's very doors in the middle of the night. I was completely unable to find her, and it really ate at me. I know why. I went back to the front at some point around 5 a.m., but still I was just searching on my phone for the girl. Though by the time my relief came in at 6 a.m., I still hadn't found shit. That was my obsession for the next couple days. When I'd exhausted every article about deaths on 84th, I began to wonder if anyone even knew she was dead. So I searched local missing persons, and I looked into all of them, but still, none of them were this girl. It haunted me for days. Oh,
I
okay. That was gonna
began
be my. I was gonna be. That was gonna be my guess that she was missing.
Really? That didn't even cross my mind.
So I was like, okay. So if I was gonna say like, okay, so if he can't find her death, then she's missing, and she hasn't been reported dead. And then I was like, maybe he's gonna look at the cameras and see that he saw the truck of the cameras, but just not the girl, right? That's what my guess was, but maybe that's not the case. Go ahead.
Do
But
you think the guy is alive and it was just a girl that was the dead
yeah, so
one?
I think that was the murderer. I think that was the murderer's truck, and I think he's real. I think he's alive. And I think the girl's dead. And if he were to go back and look at the cameras, he would see the truck and the guy, but just not the girl, you know?
He's about to miss a missing person. He's about to solve a missing person's case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I began reliving as much of that night as I could, trying to recall. Wait, sorry, I'm sorry. 1 second. Do you think the manager or anybody, they like go back and like look at these tapes and like see all these workers just like talking to themselves all night?
That's a good question. I don't know. Because they keep quitting. And I think they're
Yeah,
quitting because of the ghost shit. I don't think the manager are looking at the cameras because they would like figure it out. But maybe they are. They're like, we gotta find someone who's gonna take this position, you know?
true.
Alright.
Okay. I began reliving as much of that night as I could, trying to recall every single detail. I could remember her hinting that the guy she was with was her boyfriend, which even then was a red flag, but now as I remembered that older guy in the parking lot pumping gas in the dark, it filled me with dread. I didn't get that good of a look at him. I could tell that he had some stubble and was wearing a flannel, jeans, and boots. And what good was that? As for his truck, I wasn't sure exactly what make or model it was, but that it was red and it looked old. I could only assume the punched out glass was like the biker's motorcycle, something he had taken place after something that had taken place after the girl's death, or more likely during.
Then I remembered her asking me if I had ever done something crazy and overnight. And as I mulled over the words for hours, sitting on the back porch smoking a bowl as the sun set before my shift, I ruminated all of the possibilities such as a vague statement could mean. But then, when I remembered her saying she was on something like a road trip, it started to click. The guy she was with, her boyfriend, must have been taking her off somewhere, probably far from her home. Maybe they'd been talking online, probably in secret, because no parent would let her kid date a grown ass man like that. And she seemed to be about 18, like myself. Maybe she driven to where she'd live, and this big, crazy overnight decision she made was climbing into this stranger's vehicle that she'd been tricked into thinking was safe, giving him for God knows how long as he took her to God knows where. And then they stopped at the Pass and Go on 84th Avenue for gas. This turned into one of my favorite types of stories.
Mystery?
Oh, yeah. Mystery and murder.
I like both of those things too. At
Mm-hmm.
first, that part didn't make sense to me. Yeah, this place was a couple miles south of 90th Street, which came right off the highway. But why wouldn't he stop for gas at one of the many gas stations out there closer to the interstate? Never mind, I had a thought, but never mind. Though the more I thought about it, the more I started to piece it together. If this guy was really from out of state and was trying to get her back to his place undetected, it made sense that he wouldn't pull off the highway to the nearest gas station where cops would be coming through camera footage. Instead, he drove off the most secluded road in the whole town, 84th Avenue. I started to feel overwhelmed.
Ooh, this is getting good. Okay. I had nothing to go off of to narrow my search, really. And for all I knew, I'd have to look at missing persons listings for people in every surrounding state, and maybe even further than that. I mean, it was just impossible. But at last, saying a prayer to whoever was listening, I typed in the vaguest stream of clues I had. Missing girl, brown eyes, black hair, red truck. Then I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. I searched it first in various counties in Iowa. Maybe she was just from a lower part of the state. But when that didn't yield anything, I searched the same sentence with counties in Missouri, and at the end, then Kansas, and then Nebraska, and then after over an hour of looking, my heart skipped a beat. I saw those big brown eyes looking back at me through my cell phone screen. I clicked on the news article, and there, in her missing persons listing, was unmistakably the girl's face. Just like the one in the gas station, I merely read the article like I was some sort of divine revelation. Her name was Amber Wicker. She would have just turned 18. In fact, her birthday was only 2 months ago, but her disappearance was 4 months ago, which meant that on the night she had actually stepped into the gas station, and not the memory I had co-inhabited, she was only 17, making the whole thing even more disturbing to me. She was last seen on her front door's ring camera, climbing to a red truck parked across the street, almost totally out of frame. But even in the glimpse of it available in the video, I could tell it was the same one when I saw the 2x4s on blue tarp. Let us pause really quick. That's fucking crazy. Also, how close could the story have been to where we live? That's wild. That is crazy.
Yeah,
That's especially, oh man, there's so many places to like dispose of a body in the West. So many. So she's
when
from
we
Nebraska,
were
right? Is that what they decided? It was Nebraska.
Iowa.
I was it Iowa? Because he
Yeah,
looked at Iowa first.
because he could. I think they're North Iowa
Oh,
because he
okay,
said
maybe
they could look
no.
South Iowa.
We said Missouri at the end, and then Kansas, and then Nebraska. And after an hour of looking, my heart skipped a beat. I think it's Nebraska.
I searched it first in various counties in Iowa. Maybe she was just from a lower part of the state.
Okay, but it didn't yield anything. It said didn't yield
Yeah.
anything. So maybe it's Nebraska. I don't really know. It wasn't really clear, but dang, that's crazy.
When I drove through, when you said there's so many places to dispose of a body, when I drove through Oregon and Washington, I was like, okay, That makes sense. This is why serial killers are from the Pacific Northwest, or
Yeah,
just the
because
West in general.
it's so much easier. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that I'm a serial killer and that's what I'm looking for states. But no, the West is like I feel like a lot of serial killers. I feel like a lot of serial killer stories are in the West,
Mm.
right? Because like there's serial killers in the East. Don't get me wrong. It's just a lot harder because it's so condensed and there's so many cities. Like I used to live in the East, so it's just like a way easier, in the
There's
West.
so much
So much
open.
space. Yeah,
Yeah.
so much space. All right, let's get
Okay.
back to the story. I am invested. This is pretty good.
I'm intrigued. Wait, where did you? Okay.
So it's my stomach
Uh,
sank. Is where you're gonna start off.
okay. My stomach sank as I watched Amber hurry down the driveway, looking once over her shoulder to the safety of the house she was abandoning, then reaching the truck and climbing into the passenger seat before it took off the road. I leaned back into the chair, letting out a beleaguered sigh. Okay. So Amber Wicker was her name, and as far as the police knew, she was missing, but I knew she was dead. After all, every customer that had walked in beneath the flickering sign had been a corpse, and as much as I wanted to believe otherwise, I assumed her case wasn't different. So, as much as I wanted to stop working at that place, as much as it was bothering me to see those ghosts walking the faded paths of their memories through the purgatory that was the pass and go off 84th Avenue, I had to stay. I had to wait until Amber came back so I could gather enough evidence to give to the police. After all, though some of the dead only came in once, like the biker, others had come in twice, like Officer Brady, and others had come in on almost a weekly basis, like the scratch-off lady.
I have.
Eventually,
Wait. I have a theory. We are
okay, let me
derailing
hear
this so
it.
much. This is one of those stories that. Sorry, viewer, but like I gotta talk about it because like it's. I like to like theorize and talk about these stuffs, but I bet you. What happens because we're gonna find out. But they come in twice, right? So I bet you she attached to the truck. And bet you that guy is gonna come back to that gas station with another girl. And she's gonna come in too. Or he's going to go get someone else and stopping at the gas station. One of the two. He's gonna go back to the gas station. That's what I think. Sorry.
You think he's
That's how I did
attached?
that up.
You think she's attached to the truck in the gas station specifically, or like attached to the guy in his truck?
I think she's attached to the truck, right? Because I think she was murdered in the truck, right? Because the window was out. So
Yeah.
she probably like got strangled in the truck, or something happened. Like I think she got killed in the truck, and maybe she like was trying to struggle and she busted out the window with her foot or something. You know, in the struggle, maybe he choked
Yeah.
her. And I think he's gonna stop back at that gas station, and then she's gonna go back into the store.
I think you're right, but I want to find out. Okay,
Okay,
your
let's go.
turn.
Keep going. Let's go. Eventually, sorry. Eventually, I hoped she would come back. And so, the rest of July, I picked up more night shifts, desperately wanting to be there the night she hopefully returned. I also chatted with Justin, the guy who I shadowed and who worked nights when I was off. But his brain seemed constantly fried on something, and if he'd had any paranormal experiences he hadn't noticed. I asked him about the sign flickering, and he said it did that on occasion. So he knew he'd seen at least some ghost, but when I asked him about Amber, he wasn't sure if he'd seen her or not. Needless to say, I wasn't getting anything useful out of him. I asked him to just keep his eyes open for her, and if he saw her, to note the license plate of the truck by the pump. You'd think such a strange request would raise an eyebrow, but he was so zombified on whatever the hell it was he was abusing in his off time that he just said, sure. In the weeks after I pinned down Amber's true identity, I began to research her a bit. Could only find 2 articles about her. One was the one I first found, which just had the basic details of her disappearance. The other was an even smaller article in which her parents had given a statement and a number to call if anyone knew anything. I really wanted to call that number, but I knew that right now I honestly didn't have shit. I could always say I was at the gas station that night and I saw something, but the security camera footage only went back 60 days, so there'd be no proof one way or the other. I didn't have a license plate and I was a whole state over. I didn't have a lot of faith the police would be able to do much with that, and I didn't want to give her parents false hope.
So I decided I'd just wait until her memory replayed again, and I could piece together some actionable details. In the meantime, the more I searched her, I was at least able to find some of her socials, but her Instagram was private and her Twitter was inactive for years. Though when I stumbled upon her Facebook, even though it too hadn't had a post uploaded in 2 years, I felt strangely more connected to her as I scrolled through her photos. This immortal anthology of a dead girl's time on Earth floated in cyberspace for anyone to find, and sharing her memories from before her life was prematurely snuffed out. I found pictures of her laughing with her friends, smiling at a dance, blowing out birthday candles. I saw random posts ranging from her excitingly proclaiming she'd gotten her learner's permit
Oh,
to complaining about failing some biology tests. All these moments of this girl's life, both significant and insignificant, were here forever. Memories accessible to anyone that cared to find them.
Jesus
What a
Christ.
great writer. I just want to point that out.
Jesus Christ. I mean, they're making me feel some shit for sure. Holy fuck. Just the way that they describe, like, you can, like, oh man. It's almost like real. Right?
I
Because, like, this
know.
is so real. Like, this could really happen. Like, not, I mean, the ghost part, yes, but, like, just, like, someone going missing. And then, like, her footprint online is just there,
Yeah.
right? Forever. Immortalized online. So sad. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start here.
Yeah.
And really, her parents at the gas station wasn't much different, though that memory was supernatural, unfolding in real time over a real place. It was, in essence, the same. Just some moment of her existence that unaffiliated people, such as myself, were able to witness. Though whether or not I had been the one to see it for a reason, or my witnessing of it just as inconsequential and random as me scrolling through her Facebook page. Felt that I was a part of this girl's story now, and it was only my duty to help her however I could. But by August, she still hadn't come back, and strangely, neither had Officer Brady, or the biker, or even the scratch off lady. There's only one other occurrence of the sign flickering, and I guess it was either a no show ghost or a fuck you from the other universe, because no one ended up coming in. I got worried that whatever supernatural phenomenon had been taking place was over just as suddenly as it begun. And that I'd never see her again, never be given a chance to atone for my apathetic complacency that night when I could have paid more attention to a situation that was obviously suspicious. Shit.
And even worse, I was shipping off to college in just a couple of weeks. My remaining days at the pass and go were numbered. So on August 3rd, while sitting behind the counter in the dead of night, waiting for the purgatorial replay of an
Apparitions.
partition,
Apparitions.
Jesus, apparitions, final
Apparitions, yeah.
stop. I know that word, okay? I just looked it up. Apparitions' final stop on the drive to her untimely death, I made up my mind. If she didn't come in tonight, then tomorrow I take matters into my own hands. It
Ooh, vigilante shit.
What's he about to do? He's about to be a detective. It dawned on me that Amber had died nearby here. The only ghosts that ever walked into this gas station were those who had died on 84th Avenue, and that was true for Officer Brady, who had been shot just down the road, the biker who had crashed into the canal by the bend, the scratch-off lady who had hanged herself in the woods, and the others I'd seen through those doors beneath the flickering green glow. And though I had no idea where to look, I had one thing to go off of. I'd seen the truck turn right on the turnoff. So somewhere north of here, she must have died. And maybe, just maybe, I could figure out where.
Ooh, I'm getting some chills. Okay. By morning, I still hadn't seen her, or any ghosts for that matter, and after chatting with Tegan, my morning relief, I walked out of my car. But though I'd planned on driving home and getting some sleep, then searching later, I just couldn't resist the urge to look right then and there. And so, in my Passenger uniform and all, I walked over to the turnoff where I'd seen that phantom truck head right, and then did the same walking north up the road. The sun was just barely rising over the trees, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd appreciated a sunrise. Usually, I sped home, trying to beat the sunlight to my room, where I could shut my blackout curtains and crash as if I were still night. Then I'd wake up at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, but this morning, moving steadily up the road along the canal and constantly scanning for anything out of the ordinary, I couldn't help but enjoy the orange glow above the trees. By the time I'd walk about 2 miles, the sun was fully above the horizon, and cars were starting to sparingly appear on 84th. Though admittedly not many, as this wasn't the most direct route to anywhere in the town except the Pass and Go. I'd already passed the infamous bend, and even felt obligated to pass there a moment before the canal, sort of waiting in reverent silence as I remembered the stare that biker had given me, the regret permeating his eyes. Dang, I'm fucking that word up. By now, though it could no longer be considered a canal, it was a drainage ditch at best. Muddy, shallow dip off the road, and beyond it was the forest. But then, in my steady scan of the ground in front of me, I noticed something twinkling. I crouched, looking down at the small shards of glass on the pavement. Oh? The glass from the truck? Take it away!
Almost like a vision, my mind seemed to play out the simulation, and I was staring at the man as he and Amber argued. He lost his temper and slammed her head into the window, shattering it.
Oh.
I noticed more twinkling coming from the grass before the ditch, and I could almost hear the sound of his boots scraping the asphalt as he kicked the glass off down the hill, trying to cover up anything that had happened. Then I noticed something yellow peeking out of the mud. I stepped down into the ditch, grabbing the corner of the plastic and pulling it out of its muddy tomb. Sitting in my hand was a frayed, dirty bag of Lay's Classic, mostly empty, with just a few crumbs at the bottom. My heart raced as I recalled her placing the bag on the counter, and again I could see it before my mind's eye. The man dragging her body out of the passenger seat, her dead weight foot scraping the bag out with her. He probably didn't even notice in his panic as he dragged her toward the forest, the bag fluttering off down in the ditch below. I walked up to the hill on the other side. I stepped into the forest. Oh my god, he literally saw her last moments of life.
Yeah, he's like having like a premonition. That's crazy. He just fucking slammed her head into the glass. I knew it was
Yeah.
something to do with the glass. Damn. My breathing started to become heavy as I walked deeper into the trees, terrified as I anticipated just what nightmarish spectacle I might be about to find. But I wouldn't turn back now, and as the afterimage of Emmer's conflicted eyes appeared in my mind again, I resolved to find where she was buried so I could finally give her parents peace, maybe even give her peace. And it didn't take much more walking to find clues. I noticed 2 hardly visible scrapes in the dirt, where her shoes must have been dragging. I carefully followed them, stepping off toward a cluster of trees as they suddenly turned. At last, freezing before what I could immediately ascertain was a shallow grave. The grass all around it was undisturbed, but here, in just this plot, was a clump of uneven earth. Some grass and leaves had been precariously scattered on top in the man's frantic attempt to conceal it. but it wasn't convincing. And as I crouched before the plot, my heart began to thump out of my chest. But I gulped and steeled myself, knowing I had to see this all the way through for Amber.
I wish I had a shovel, but nothing else. But with nothing else, I had just dug with my hands, scraping the dirt away and trying not to consider the possibility of my fingers abruptly touching her corpse. I jerked as I felt something that wasn't soil. Didn't feel like rotting flesh. As I brushed the sand away, my eyes centered upon a filthy blue tarp immured, immured in the
Yeah.
ground. It was all I needed to see. I stayed right there, pulling out my phone and calling the police. And when they arrived within the hour, I told them I'd gone on a morning walk after getting off the graveyard shift, but noticed the broken glass and trash on the side of the road. They applauded me on my intuition, saying they probably wouldn't have found that suspicious at all. And hell, I certainly wouldn't have either if I hadn't known the context.
Damn, dude, this story is super sad. 2 stories in a row.
I know.
This is
Dramatic.
fucking heavy. From there, I said I walked into the forest out of curiosity, but when I found what looked to be a trail left by dragging feet, I began convinced I'd actually found something serious. And after a little bit of digging, and where the ground looked abnormal, I'd seen the tarp and assumed the worst. They were kinder than cops had ever been with me as they thanked me. And in just a couple of days, it was confirmed in a news story that wrapped in that tarp and left to rot in the woods of 84th Avenue for the last half of a year was none other than the body of Amber Wicker, the girl with black hair and big brown eyes. Hold on, sorry, I don't want to cry. The girl taking black big brown eyes, taking her next big step in life, the last big step she'd ever take. Take it from here. I can't read. I
I,
can't read anymore.
I was glad I had been able to help her family get some closure, and hell, even led to the arrest of the bastard that killed her, whose DNA was recovered at the scene of the crime. But even still, at the end of the day, none of that would bring her back. I just felt hollow. Finding her body, providing her parents whatever relief they could find, and putting that monster in jail still wouldn't bring the innocent, naive girl back to life. As I listened to a podcast on the graveyard shift on my last night of work at the Pass and Go, 4 days before I'd be heading off to college, I found myself constantly distracted thinking about that. But slowly, I got my mind off things, paying more attention to the podcast and starting to stare into the space at last, the shift beginning to fly by. Until just after 4 in the morning, I gasped at the neon line. I gasped at the neon sign. Wow, Jesus, it's such a short sentence. I gasped as the neon light shined.
Wow. I'll take it from here. I gasped as the neon sign flickered. I darted over to the side of the counter and peered over the cigarettes. I'll never be able to describe the feeling in my chest as that side of that old red truck, and though I felt ice in my veins at the after image of Amber's killer pumping gas in the dark when I found her walking to the front of the store, all that remained in my heart was an overwhelming longing and inconsolable despair. She walked into the store, the chime on the ceiling ringing as she headed right over to the snacks. I stared at her undamaged body, her clean black hair, her innocent big brown eyes. I began emotional at the sight of it, trying to desperately not to cry. She grabbed her bag of Lays, then she walked over to the sports drinks, and I leaned against the counter, my chin in my palm, as I gazed at the specter retracing the final moments of her life. None the wiser to the horrible demise awaiting her 2 miles away, she grabbed a red Gatorade, then walked over to me, and I felt breathless as she approached, unsure of what I'd say. Whoa, you alright?
She looked at me, and I must have been hiding how I felt even worse than I realized.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I lied, scanning the items like a robot. I cleared my throat.
What brings you out so late? Nothing really.
The total came up on the screen.
Big brother?
I limply asked, nudging my head towards the heartless man in the dark.
Ew, no. It's gross to have a brother?
I must have asked the question differently this time, because she stared deeper at me, asking again.
Are you sure you're okay, dude?
God, I wanted so badly to tell her to run, to just get the fuck out of here, to not ever go near that man again. I wanted to tell her that she was about to die, that he was her murderer, and these were the final minutes of her life. But this was not a time machine. It was no different than that Facebook page from years ago, just a memory inexplicably suspended in time, just a brief expression of her existence that was ephemeral
Yeah.
as an experience as her time on Earth, and nothing more.
Can I, ask you something?
She raised an eyebrow.
Sure. Have you ever done something totally crazy just overnight?
She blinked widely, visibly taken aback by the words.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, I have. Why do you ask?
I shrugged.
No reason. What about you? Yeah, I did once, and I had this weird inkling to follow a trail into the woods, and I found a body, called the police, and reported it. Ooh, creepy. I
I
let
let
out a
out a.
long sigh, handing her the stuff. Hey, this is on me tonight, alright? Oh, sure. How come? You just look like a friend of mine. I smiled Holly. Woo! A friend I haven't seen in a while. Anyway, it's my treat. Well, alright. Thanks. Jesus Christ. Keep going. God
She,
damn.
she
This is
took
really
her.
hard to read.
She took her unceremonious last meal, then turned over to the door, walking toward the oscillating neon.
Have a good rest of your night, Carter.
She glanced at my name tape, smiling slightly at me. It broke my heart.
You too, Amber. Huh? I said you too.
She stood there a moment as if debating whether or not she'd heard me right the first time. Then she turned around and walked outside. But I couldn't sit there, and before I knew it, I was running down the counter. I was running around the counter, shoving the doors open and stepping outside. I bit my tongue at the gash. I bit my tongue at the gash on the back of her head, the blood dripping down her hair onto the back of her top. I had guessed that had been the cause of her death, but evidently I was wrong. Because she turned toward me, I found her blue face and the purplish bruising of a seatbelt around her
Oh.
neck. Her clothes were covered in dirt and blood, and the Lay's bag was empty and faded. Mud crumbled all over it. The bottle of Gatorade was halfway empty. I trembled as I found her teary gaze, the desperation and regret staining her painfully cognizant big brown eyes, not innocent anymore.
Thank you.
She whispered. I couldn't possibly muster a response.
And then Amber turned, the afterimage of her corpse climbing to the passenger side door of her murderer's truck. I remained frozen in place, my eyes following every last fleeting second of Amber's existence as the taillights glowed, and the engine hummed. Then the truck pulled off, pausing at the turnoff, and then, as it pulled away, turning right on 84th Avenue and heading to her shallow grave. The neon sign stopped flickering, leaving me standing there alone again in silence. Author D.D. Howard. Damn! That was intense! Holy
That was
fuck!
heavy.
I could not I could not read some of that. That was hard. Making me tear up and shit. Fuck. That hit every emotion. Why did he get the license plate number?
Maybe you didn't see it.
No, there's no way. The guy's truck was right there. Damn, dude, that's crazy. That was really good. D.D. Howard. We're definitely have to look up more of his stories. That was
That
good.
was a good story.
That was written very well. Some of his comments are like, I did some time working in the C stores, and I love horror tales that take place in that setting. I mostly work night shifts, and although I never had any supernatural experiences, it can be creepy. I mean, in a building, usually alone, typically in an isolated or rough area, knowing who or what's going on to shamble through the door. Um, yeah, so good.
That was a
Um,
good story.
very good. Wonderful and heartbreaking, amazing story, the details, that characterization, everything. Yeah, I agree with that statement. Very good. Fucking, I can't believe it left off on a cliffhanger like that. Um, crazy.
I thought
Like,
it was just going to be about like paranormal ghosts and murder, but
yeah.
it had kind of a happy ending.
Well, yeah, he found the body and he gave her peace. Like, I think
Yeah.
when she left the doors of the gas station, she knew that she knew that he had found her because she whispered thank you, right? So like I feel like that was like closure. Like I said, like I said though, she was attached to that truck,
Yeah,
right? So
you're
when the
right.
truck came back, um, very very good story. I don't even know what to say. Well, so now that we've read the story, um, say something like that happens to you, are you gonna like investigate like he did? Like how would you have handled that situation?
Um, I want to be like, yeah, I would have investigated it, give the family closure, but like, I'd also be really scared to go into the woods,
Oh yeah, oh yeah, hundred
and I'd be
percent. That's
scared to find anything.
Oh yeah, I think that would be all around anyone's fear. You know, that was heavy, dude. Towards
How
the end,
would
I was
you
like,
handle that?
dude, I was getting emotional towards the end of that story.
I
That
know,
was
I
hard to
saw.
read. That was hard to read. I think I'd investigate because I get pretty obsessive compulsive about certain things, and then I have to learn everything about that thing and then find out the ending. So I'd probably, if I had stayed that long for for like the to realize what was going on, I probably would have. I probably would have tried to investigate and like figure out some type of like conclusion because I'll just obsess about that one thing. Like I'll explain in the story. Like I was like, yeah, I'd probably do something similar. Um,
I wouldn't go into the woods by myself. I'd be terrified to see what I would find, but
yeah, I might call a friend or something and be like, hey, we
yeah,
gotta go investigate this. Um, man, that's crazy. That was a really good story.
that was a really good story.
That's like we have had like very good stories in a row so far. Like that was very
This
good.
might be my favorite one out of the three I've done with you.
I think so too. I think that's top. I think it tops
Yeah,
the last two. Like the last one was good, but this one was phenomenal. I really like that one, and like we read very good. Like we had a couple of like mess ups, but because as you do, but it flowed easy. I don't think I'm about to edit too much out of this one. I think we this was a very good story. It read very well too. Like the way he wrote it, like there were some big words, but like the way it read, very good. I think the grammar was good. Helped make it flow a little better.
makes a huge difference in when you're trying to read something that you've never read before.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was good.
yeah,
That was really good.
100%. I really like that. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully the author watched this video. Hopefully he likes us watching, reading this and posting it to the thing. I do like to give
Yeah,
credit to the authors. Because it is their work. We're just reacting to it, right? But yeah, super good, super good. I give it a 10. Honestly, that's a 10 out of 10. And it was like real to like real horror. Like there is the ghost aspects, right? So like that's supernatural, and like that could be
it's also
something.
real.
Yeah, yeah, right. Ghosts are real. but it's he tied it in really well with like disappearances and missing persons. Um, that was good. I don't know what to say, but that was very good. I like that story a lot. Um, it's about to be like our longest story that we're going to post.
That was
It's
long,
gonna it's gonna be
but that
like an
was good
hour,
though.
hour 30. I think it's worth the time to watch this one. But this one was good. I got the voice. There wasn't a lot of dialogue, but like it didn't really need it. The little short dialogue was good. I thought it was. I thought it read well. I don't know what to say about it,
What would you
except
give
that
it
this was
out
a
of
good story.
10?
I'll give this story's a 10.
This is a 10.
This is a 10 story.
I
I just
agree.
gave it one. I just gave it a 10 right now. This story is 10 out of 10, phenomenal. It's very good. I definitely top 5 of what we read. We haven't read 5. Well, we actually only read 5, so it is technically the
We
top
have read
5, but
5.
top 3 for sure.
Yeah.
Number 1 on the top 3 list. Um, yeah, yeah, I liked it. It was good. Other than that, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, that's all I can really. It was so good. I'm like speechless. Like it got like it went through so many different emotions. So like it was like comical at the beginning, then it was like creepy, and then it was like super sad.
It
Like
did
and then it
get
was happy at
really
the it was happy
dark.
it was happy at the end too. Like it had a lot of emotions, but like it was tough. Like do you ever like like listen to like true crime, like actual true crime podcasts and stuff like that? Dude,
All the time. It's my hobby.
I can't listen to them anymore. Like I used to listen to a podcast called Murder with My Husband, who was just really good.
Oh
And
yeah.
like some of those stories just make me so sad. And I was like, dude, these are just so sad and they're real too. So
That makes it
like this is
even
obviously
worse.
fiction. This is a fictional story, but like those ones are like real stories. You're like, fuck.
I don't know.
That's
I almost want to go
depressing.
on Google and like look up like Iowa missing girl. It sounded what? It sounds like it could be like legit.
You think that he took like inspiration from like an actual story?
Probably the murder part, but maybe not the ghost part. But also, I don't
Yeah,
doubt the
yeah.
the ghost part.
Right. I like the settings. These settings that they do for these like this type of like story setting, I really like. Like you're in the middle of nowhere in a gas station.
Yeah,
I really like that. Or like you're like trapped on a farm or something like that. Cuz that's actually kind of scary. Right? There are urban stories that are like scary, but like being alone in like, the rural countryside, that's
that's
terrifying,
yeah.
right?
No, thank you.
So yeah, I'm not into it. But this is good. This one might get posted this week, honestly. I don't know. This might get posted this week because this was fucking phenomenal. This is a good story. And then we'll do Stairs in the Woods. That's the next story. For all the viewers who have stayed to listen to our commentary, we hit our our goal of 150 subscribers. So we're going to be doing Stairs in the Woods, which is one of my favorite stories, horror stories out there. A lot of people do Stairs in the Woods on YouTube. We're going to do it too. It is my favorite. So we're going to do that this week. You won't see it for at least 2, but it'll be fun. Other than that, I mean, that's a good way to close it off. I think that's good right there. I think phenomenal story. Anyway, thank you for whoever's watched the whole video, who've made it all the way through, or you came back to rewatch, watch the second half and you broke it up into parts. Appreciate it. We appreciate all the love we've been getting, all the subscribers, likes, the views. We appreciate that. We're small, starting out small, doing things that we love. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment helps, but keep it up. Also, go check out Andrea's podcast as well. Medicated, Meddlesome, Quarrelsome. It's on Apple. She's got a backfill of things she's got to post, but she's posting. She posted one recently,
Yeah.
right? Okay, it's posted.
Uh, I'm
So,
going to.
oh, it's not posted yet.
No.
Okay, well, it's gonna get posted. Maybe this will make her post it, but it'll be posted for this new year. So thanks again for watching, and hopefully you guys sleep well tonight. Talk to you. I'll see you all next time. Peace. Want to say bye?
Bye. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, no problem. She'll probably be on almost every episode of this. Like just saying. She keeps saying that, but she's gonna keep getting invited. All right, for reals this time. See y'all next time.